I'm Luke Hefson, and I work at GitHub. I do quality assurance stuff on the Mac app, and I'm going to try and demystify some of what is quality assurance, and particularly the quality assurance that I do at GitHub. Yeah, my talk's called Method Acting and Other Rapid QA Processes. That will all be revealed in time. So, your software is a creative manifestation of who you are, or at least it should be. Your code and design speak for themselves, so the quality of your product belies your reputation. But it's not just about your reputation, there's also additional benefits to maintaining quality. On a well-tested product, support loads are lessened. I mean, that's kind of obvious. If you're catching bugs before they go public, your support team's going to have less emails to answer. I think we can all pretty much agree on that. But you also get a holistic view of your products. Testing for quality will give you a great overall feel for your products. It can be helpful to see your products from the outside looking in. And the truth is, it's genuinely satisfying to catch issues before they go public. It makes you feel really good, and if you feel good, you're going to write better software. Again, that's obvious. Software is eating the world. So this is a quote by Mark Andreessen, and it refers to how software is becoming increasingly fundamental in all aspects of daily life. For this reason, faults can, on occasion, cause big problems. I mean, for example, if you're building an address book application and you have a form with a simple bug in it, this could quite easily lead to the incorrect entry of an emergency services number. And this has catastrophic results. I mean, this could be a really bad thing. I mean, so this is an extreme example, but users do rely on your software. I mean, they really do rely on your software. So you should do your best not to let them down. So we do everything we can on GitHub for Mac to maintain a high level of quality. And we've developed a number of QA processes that are best suited to the way that we ship. And although GitHub for Mac is a native app, the way that we ship is not all that dissimilar from github.com. For example, GitHub ships unlike most other web services, right? With many, many deployments to master a day. Not many other services can say that. Sometimes there's an actual queue of developers waiting to deploy their changes. For a native app, GitHub for Mac's release cycle is also quite uncommon. We follow the same GitHub ethos of releasing little but often. That's something you'll hear a lot when you're in and around GitHub. So in this respect, a lot of the processes that I'm talking about today are completely transferable to the web. This isn't just about native. The focus is on optimizing for quality in a fast-moving environment, not which platform you're on. But what are the potential pitfalls to shipping fast? And how can quality be affected? And what do we need to do to optimize for it? Well, for a start, there's the inevitable time constraints. When you're updating regularly, it's easy for QA processes to get in the way of development cycles, as they can often be time-consuming. So we want to reduce latency the latency that testing can cause between releases. And when the code base itself is rapidly changing, as it often is at GitHub, some bugs can be harder to find. In fact, the risk increases altogether that there's going to be more bugs. And then ironically, the bug fixes themselves may then introduce new bugs. So this in turn prompts the need for more testing, which again adds further latency. It's like an ongoing cycle. So an alternative is just to forgo any testing for quality and just ship regardless. But that's basically shit. I mean, if something critical is reported by your users, you'll only have to fix an issue quickly, which means that your users experienced a critical issue in the first place, and then your product's just going to go down in their estimation because of the shitty experience. Sorry, I swear a lot. English. But so, for native apps, a rollback is just another update, right? Delivered in the same way as your regular updates. It's pretty much no different. when a user goes to the effort to physically update your app, this should only be to exponentially improve quality. It's not a get-out clause for undoing avoidable mistakes. However, everyone still makes mistakes. And we've certainly had occasions in the past on GitHub for Mac that we've had to quickly follow up a release with some sort of bug fix release. So this is my story of woe. My story of woe. We give GitHub for Mac versions code names. Okay? They have build numbers as well, but to differentiate them, we have code names. In this particular campfire conversation that we're having, my teammates Danny and Justin discuss what we should call the next version. This is a regular 2-weekly conversation we have that often goes on forever. And after some discussion as to refactoring the diff view, some improvements for rendering larger diffs in this version, we settle on calling it Big Diff as a version name. It, seems apt. Big Diff. Then I jokingly add that if we were to accidentally introduce a critical issue, not like that's going to happen, then we could just roll it back and call the next release Same Diff. Like, that's my poor attempt at a joke online. I mean, it seems funny at the time. So GitHub for Mac is updated. Build number 59 is Big Diff. Brilliant. Hurrah! And then a few hours later, we release GitHub for Mac. Build number 60 is Same Diff. My joke went too far. So in this instance, I discovered there was an edge case that I wasn't testing for. Mistakes happen. So how can we optimize testing not only for the majority of UI interactions, but also those hard-to-find edge cases? So one answer is exploratory testing. Now, exploratory testing is often described as feeling your way through testing. It's similar to the ad hoc testing that you probably already do when you're working on a feature, but with a direct emphasis on how the product works as a whole and how things relate to each other. James Bark, who's a modern thinker on all things test-related, describes exploratory testing as scientific thinking in real time. Great exploratory testers can discover more bugs in half the time than those traditional script-based testers, particularly edge cases. However, as exploratory testing is such a heuristic and experience-based technique for testing, it can be really hard to explain and quantify. And I spent a lot of time talking to people and trying to think of ways to describe exploratory testing to them, and it's really taken me a while to come up with some sort of concept that works. So that's why I'm going to relate it to the method. And Marlon Brando, he's a dude. So the method acting is a great analogy for exploratory and other heuristic test practices. Well-known method actors include Marlon Brando, pictured there, Robert De Niro, Meryl Streep, Daniel Day-Lewis. These are popular names. You probably already know that they're associated with method acting. I mean, method actors are often recognized as the best actors in the world. They immerse themselves in their characters to such an extent that sometimes they continue acting even when the camera's not rolling. They're prone to improvisation, and they move away from the scripts to find a performance that's more nuanced and real feeling. So, just to give you a better idea, here's an example of some sort of badass method acting that I love from a film that you probably already know called Taxi Driver, and I'm just going to roll VT.
Yeah. Huh? Faster than you. Saw you coming, you shitheel. I'm standing here. You make the move. You make the move. It's your move. I'll try it, you. You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking to? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to? Oh, yeah? Huh? Okay. Huh?
I love the way way, it makes me feel so uncomfortable. So you're probably thinking, like, what the fuck has that got to do with testing? I'll get to it. I mean, so... wow, you really can't read that. Lee Strasberg, who's considered the popular father of method acting, once stated that the method trains actors to use their imagination, senses, and emotions to conceive of characters with unique and original behavior, creating performances grounded in the truth of the moment. So, I suggest that you take a cue from the method and begin testing your products with a different mindset. Approach the features within your software from an unfamiliar character role. Now, I'm not suggesting that you start acting like Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. I mean, he's a psychopath. That would be taking things too far. But if you take on the position of a complete beginner, for instance, you'll be surprised by the discoveries that you make in your software. Likewise, if you assume the role of some sort of pro user with a niche use case, you might find issues that weren't always apparent to you. I mean, these issues might not necessarily be outright bugs. Instead, they might just be usability problems, but it's awesome to find out these things that just wouldn't have occurred to you previously. And whether you fully get into playing the role of different types of user or not, there's still ways of thinking that can benefit exploratory testing. Learn to separate emotional responses from rational responses. When developing a product, it's all too easy to confuse the needs of your users with your own feelings of ownership. I mean, it's natural. You built this thing, you have feelings of ownership. I mean, I don't see why you wouldn't. But if you can separate those, that's a really great thing. If a particular component is causing quality or usability issues, then ask yourself, do we really need this? A common problem when testing without playing a role is operant conditioning. And this is a type of conditioning that often happens when you're testing. Some testers get conditioned by a particular fault while they're testing, especially if you're developing and testing concurrently, as many of you, I'm sure, are. And when you're very close to a system, it can become easy to work around things that have a tendency to fail if you quickly become conditioned against any notion of a problem in the first place. So a great example of this in GitHub for Mac would be sync conflicts. So when testing, it'd be easy for me to subconsciously just avoid sync conflicts. I mean, they basically force me to do something. They cause a barrier which demands resolving before other testing can continue. However, it's for this very reason that we need to be exploring workflows which regularly come up against this barrier and consider how we can reduce friction for different use cases. So what else can we do to get in the mind of other users other than just simply assuming a role? Authentic test environments. So creating test environments is nothing new. However, I would propose that you go one better and actually create a character. So this is David, or Dave to his friends. You can see from his contributions graph on GitHub that he's just the occasional committer. You probably can't see it that well, but just here. And Dave is what I would call a casual coder. He's forked a couple of public repos along with a few private ones. In particular, he seems to like making commits to one of my own private repos. What a coincidence! Because Dave is I and I am Dave. Yeah. I mean, so basically this is an account that I've set up and a character which I'm assuming, and it's just one of the ways which I effectively distance myself from my own bias when I'm testing. I want to create a separation there. You'll also notice that I use Chrome when playing the role of Dave, whereas my everyday browser choice is Safari. This seems weird, but I mean, this actually has a twofold effect of making it easier to switch environments, which is quick and, makes things easier for me, but it also strengthens the feeling of being sandboxed into a different role. I really am, taking on somebody else here. So, how else do we optimize for quality in a fast-moving world? And how do we determine the significance of issues if we're constantly switching between different use cases? So, significance is a very objective thing, right? Different people have different needs for a product. Unit tests, for example, have obvious significance in their own right, but as part of a systems test, they gain a different significance altogether. Computer scientist Gerald Weinberg once remarked, Would you fly on an airplane's maiden flight based on the assurance that all parts were tested prior to assembly? Again, it's kind of an extreme example, but Weinberg is not only highlighting the importance of testing your products holistically as one thing, but also how significance can change from one test to another. Issue significance can in many ways be quantified with stats and numbers. Data like the number of bug reports for an issue or the frequency of crashes. But it's also got to be measured by holistic knowledge and familiarity with the product. So this is where references come in. At GitHub, we build all our products with GitHub. And although we may have different systems of communication, such as pull requests, issues, commit comments, and even our internal support tool, we always try to create smart references between these different ways to communicate. So here you can see how I'm discussing a support request in Campfire on the left, which is then tracked back to our support system. And when I create a new issue for a bug, this is also referenced in Campfire by Hubot, our friendly chat robot, sometimes not so friendly. And in turn, the issue is referenced back and forth between pull requests. References don't end here. In the future, we're hoping to add to and further refine references between our various means of communication. But what's important to note is that this web of references between different issues and features helps us understand and reevaluate the significance of them in relation to each other. Exploratory testing using the method is an awesome process that you can do on your own to assure quality, and using references is a way that you can then determine the significance of issues. However, there's also an additional way to optimize quality that can be done on any team, or preferably on a company-wide scale, and that's dog fooding. So this is a really popular test practice that literally comes from the saying, if it's good enough for your dog to eat, then it should be good enough for you. The idea is that you actually use your products day in and day out, rather than simply testing them. However, this is a lot easier for some developers than it is for others. GitHub in particular are in a very blessed position that we make software for developers. Therefore, we use our products constantly. Dog fooding just comes naturally to us. If I made an app which was targeted at pregnant women, then I would probably have a harder time dog feeding it. I'm not pregnant. Or I'm hoping not to be anytime soon. I mean, I can't easily become pregnant myself, although in a few years' time you don't know. But so in this situation, the method style of exploratory testing could be really useful, assuming a role. However, if you are making products which can be tested day to day by your team, then you should make it as easy as possible to target those colleagues that will make the best dog fooders. So the truth is, people can be apathetic. The easier you make to get pre-release versions into their hands, the more likely they are to dog food without even thinking about it, which is the point of dog fooding. Can't really see it, but GitHub for Mac has a built-in updater for public ships, so this is how we update the app basically. But we also use the same mechanism for getting the latest staff builds into the hands of everybody at GitHub. If you have a staff account at GitHub, then you always get the very latest GitHub for Mac staff ship. It's that easy. So this way, dog fooding becomes the natural state for any GitHubber using the Mac client, even if they're not actively thinking about it. Dog fooding the latest changes to github.com is just as easy. Again, it's all down to your login. If you're staff, just hit a keyboard shortcut to turn on staff mode. This not only exposes the mission control bar, which you can see the black bar across the top, which details some information like currently deployed branch and some other speed stats, but it also enables the latest bleeding edge features on github.com. So if you're using GitHub for Mac staff ship or github.com in staff mode and you run into a bug, then you should file it. And if not straight away, then as soon as possible. And if you're encouraging people to dog food, make sure that they're also filing those tickets. And most importantly, file it right. File it fucking right. No one wants to receive a bug report which involves chasing down the reporter for more information. That's just the worst. Bad bug reports cause friction and can really slow down development. So whether you're exploratory testing using the method, working through a catalog of test scripts, or just dogfooding as you go along, make sure that those bug reports are making a difference. Provide detailed steps and expected behaviors when necessary, and always choose to be articulate over verbose. A few carefully chosen words are a lot more helpful than a long, detailed description. After all, testing for quality is all about communication. And if you're not communicating properly, then you're not going to assure quality across all your products. And that's me done. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's any questions now, but I'll be around for the drink up and this afternoon. Grab me, or Yosef, if you want to talk about anything about GitHub. Yeah, just grab me. No questions right now. Okay, yes. Hello.
You said before about using characters as a tool to inspect the product from different angles.
Yes.
Do you imply it yourself when you're testing your own feature? Do you have people who are proper QA people who use those personas, or do you have some other process when you use these?
So, so the question was, how are there more people in the team that actually have characters created, or?
When do you apply those personas? Is it
in specific use cases? Yeah. Okay. So, so I have a bunch of different characters. Like that one was Dave. Like he's supposed to be like a noob user basically. So the way that I approach the Mac app is from different usability angles. So I use him when I am exploring and testing things like login sheet, creating new repositories, things like that. Things that I feel like an everyday first-run user should be able to do. But then I also have Phil. He's the pro user. He's a good guy, actually. He probably knows more about GitHub than I do. And he's a persona that I've set up that's more about testing. So he's like he's the guy that I'll use to actually test the complicated stuff and things that some sort of like open source contributor or something like that would do, like more sync conflicts, switching back and forth between the command client and the actual GUI. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Do you use them when you develop a new feature, or do you do that periodically to test the entire thing?
Periodically when testing, yeah. Definitely not when actually developing the actual product itself. Yeah. This is definitely about quality assurance. So it's about failure prevention as opposed to actual quality control and failure detection. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Yes, hey.
I didn't understand if you're the only one in your team who does that?
I am, yeah. So it's just me. Like, in fact, I'm one of the only quality assurance people at GitHub. So because it's kind of so part of the reason there's not much quality assurance at GitHub in general is because of dogfooding, and how dogfooding is so heavily used at GitHub. So my processes and the way that I do quality assurance on the Mac app is something I'm trying to push out and extend throughout the company, and trying to. In the previous job that I was at, we used a lot more traditional QA practices, like actual script-based stuff. You go through an entire manifest of things that you need to test. But that just doesn't work at GitHub because stuff moves too fast. I mean, shipping a native app every 2 weeks is kind of ridiculous. And not many other places do it. So that's kind of why about a year and a half ago, GitHub for Mac was a bit of a shit show. Like, there were a lot of issues, and they needed kind of like somebody to come in and sort out and maintain the quality side of it. So yeah.
Did you try to impose this method to other members of the team to develop it, to test?
Yes, I regularly do. So we're thinking about having it on the enterprise product, because there's a lot of room for quality issues there. Also on the Windows product, but not so much for .com. There's certainly scope for it, but the way that .com way things are going at .com at the moment, with so much rapid change and dog fooding, the fact that everybody is just using .com constantly kind of negates the need for this, basically. Yeah. Cool. Great. Thank you.